It's good to have some people here. And I was given this topic to figure out how do we differentiate our shopping centers. And more and more, and we were having this dialogue a little while ago, that more they all look alike when we walk in. So how does one create a niche for themselves and differentiate one from the other? I have a great panel today here with me, and I thought I'll invite all of them on stage. Starting with the lady on the panel, Nandini Taneja, Regional Director, Reach Group. Atul Talwar, Director, Business Development at Pacific. Frankline Himadri Sen, VP Leasing and BD at Paras. We've got Jay Nayak, CEO at Nexus Malls. Munish Khanna, CBO at Express Avenue. We've got Rehan Haq. Rehan, please. Head of Leasing at DLF Malls. And last but not the least, we have Rohit Goplani, CBO at Inorbit Malls. Rohit, please. We have another lady joining us in a bit, but as and when she joins in, I'll leave space for her, which is Renu Singh. So let me start on the first point. When we are planning a shopping center, I should come there. I think coming there. For Renu whenever she comes in. And what we'll do is as I discussed, we're going to keep it as an open format, and I'm letting you guys decide who wants to take which topic and not questioning one to the other. But when we are planning and creating a niche starts from the planning stage, I don't think it is something that we can do very easily later on in the life of a shopping center. So let me talk about the planning stage first. How do we decide where we want to be, where you want to open the next center, and how do you decide the size of the center? Is it purely by the size of the land and the FSI that is available? Is that the only point, or how are we going about this? And open to anybody doing a news. Please, Nand.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think the first step really is to firstly understand what the master plan is clearly saying. Where is the population moving? Where do you think the demand? Because picking up such assets is all about the vision. So you're looking at not just the next 5-6 years, but like 30, 40 years at least, right? So master plan is very important. Where the infra is getting developed. And then to understand that, having the right size of the center, you want to do a regional center, do you want to do a neighborhood center? It's happening a lot, and also the travel time. So clearly, how Gurgaon has grown. Travel time is what matters. People do not want to go more than 20 minutes for shopping. So, and hence we've got some regional centers and neighborhood centers that kind of coexist. So first step, of course, to define that. And then moving on to the mix, you want to localize it with some smaller players, define the anchor sizes, optimize, what should be the right anchor, the kind of positioning that we want to have. So yeah, I think the first step is to kind of assess, looking at the entire infra and the master plan.
Excellent. And you said we can have regional centers as well. We can have the small community centers. But talking about regional centers, is 1 million the new mantra and the new number that we keep talking about? Is that?
I think, malls are getting bigger for sure. We are building one ourselves in Jaipur. Everyone's aware. I think it's not about million being the new number. It's just that today, India has always been a very diverse culture, market. You need to be there to be able to service everybody, even within a city. And when you talk about a neighborhood center, you're not really able to do that, with a neighborhood center. So you need to go in the right size. And if the opportunity, and like he said, if the master plan allows you to do a large development, then yes, you can do. From that perspective, you can say million is a new number, but you really can't say 1 million is going to work everywhere. It can't. It can't work in a tier 2, tier 3 city. It doesn't make sense going there with that kind of a size. So you need to define where you are which city you're really looking at, what is the population, what are the buying patterns, what are the spending patterns, and then decide what kind of size you really want to do. And obviously the availability of land needs to be there.
So if we have the availability of land, then you're saying we should go for that in most cases.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the city should warrant that kind of a size as well.
I think what is important, Bimal, is if we look at the geography of our country, we divide into India versus Bharat. We have to really see whether what kind of development we need to bring in, which is going to cater to the requirements of the catchment, and whether we are going to stay relevant today and 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line or not. One size fits all cannot be the mantra. We have to stay relevant, we have to be profitable, and we have to add value to the immediate community.
Relevance needs to be there for not just 5, 10, 15. It needs to be there for longer. Yeah,
and you have to keep reinventing yourself. That's the whole challenge.
Thank you.
More importantly, what I feel that, see, today, most of the developers, maybe out of, say, X number of developers, X minus 4 or 5 of them are more into strata sold models, which is quite prevalent in most of the northern belt, if I say. So here, when they are planning, as Nandini addressed for the master plan, they just don't get the approval on the retail or the mall development area. They want to set up with a small, retail hub wherein it should have a combination of high-end residential. They have little bit a portion mixed use, kind of a retail wherein you find the right mix of what you're trying to curate there. And it is always not specifically meant that all brand would do well, because I've been on the brand side for a very long time, and my experience says that you need to understand what categories is missing in that particular vicinity. If that is the thought process, then I feel, because neighborhood malls would have more of like, daily necessity of your product, wherein they can feel that they can walk around and then they can shop in and come back. Maybe most of us, go for a, hang out in the big malls or big shopping centers, maybe twice or thrice in a month based on our schedule. So they have a planned vision, because in any of the world's retail, the customers are broadly, as we know all, that it is categorized into impulse buying and, focused buying people. So therefore, the people who are more focused, they're where zoning comes in. So zoning can be possible only when the centers are big in size, wherein if it is a small regional, setup of, like, say 1.5 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs of super built up, then you have to ensure that you have all those necessity combinations of brand mix, which will cater your immediate requirement of your neighborhood and your destination, catchment set.
I think we never built any mall, but I can tell you that the key to deciding what is the size of the mall or which mall should be doing is actually the customer segment that is there. So today, for example, we have malls in Bhubaneswar which is only 5 lakh square feet, but it's a destination mall. It's one of the best performing malls in the East. Or we have an Elante in Chandigarh, which is 1 million square feet. Or we have, let's say, for example, an Ahmedabad 1, which is in Ahmedabad. The catchment in Ahmedabad 1, which is a 9 lakh square feet mall, is not Ahmedabad city alone. It caters to almost 30 kilometers of area in and around Ahmedabad. So the definition of what should be there ideally should be based on the catchment that is there, the aspirations of the people that are there. So I'll give you one simple example how repurposing malls can help. We took over Shantiniketan Mall, which was a part, and we realized that it is in middle of one of the largest catchment of office goers. And we found that the food court there was, a little smaller than what we thought. We actually repurposed an auditorium that was not built and extended the food court today. It's the largest food court in Bangalore today and does very well. So the idea is to understand the consumer, find out what the consumer today wants, what it is going to ask for tomorrow, and then repurpose the mall. Size, I think, is a secondary thing that is to it, or that's what we believe in.
Perfect. In fact, between your answers, I got my next question, which is, you already have, somebody already said, one shoe doesn't fit all, and likewise you said. the catchment defines where and what we build. How much of it is decided, and I want to, genuine question for everybody. When you're building the shopping center, how much time is spent on understanding the catchment? Because more and more, I see people trying to premiumize their centers. Everybody wants a one step up, two steps up in the brand mix when they are doing these new centers. How much of the catchment is actually looked into? This is a question open.
Bimal, I think you really need to look into this, because it's not that, you know, you're doing a center, that city, if you want to do a, let's say, a premium center or a bridge to luxury or a luxury, it's not going to work everywhere yet. So it has to be relevant to the audience in the catchment that you are going to be present in. You cannot define it by saying that, I mean, like you said, everybody wants to build one level up. It's not about building one level up. The catchment, the tenant mix, everything needs to be relevant to that audience. And I think when you do large centers, what you can do is that you can cater to all the segments across, because you're able to create zones within the center wherein you can say you can put in your value, premium, bridge to luxury, also in one center.
One important recap of the point which Sir said. See, I was also there in Bhubaneswar for quite some time. He was talking about Nexus Rasoolgarh, which is Splendor, one of the largest mall there. Now, see, if a city allows you to have that kind of purchasing power, but you don't have any other competitor mall, so in such case, you are the leader, market leader. So, of course, in such situation, you can have a blend of all top-end brands. You have a niche, 1 million square feet or maybe more than that, with all segments customized under one roof. But that formula, as he rightly said, doesn't fits in into, you know, tier 1 cities. Because, you know, there, if you just, today every developers wants, I want to make luxury. But does that allows you among your competitors, whether you are able to sustain that for long? So that sustainability factor is again correlated to sold model and lease models. There are developers who are also trying to, you know, revive them from the sold to lease models. But still, you know, it would again take a lot of research, as I said, that when you are into positioning, you know, we normally do positioning on the broadly into 2 categories. Like positioning is done on the basis of anchors and on the basis of offerings. So when we are into offering, whether you want to make a luxury mall, whether you want to go for, you know, economic mall or value formats. Similarly, if you're focusing as an anchor-driven mall, whether it's going to be, you know, entertainment-based mall, or whether you're going to make it as a, you know, hypermarket-driven mall. So all these things, you get a very rigorous study, rigorous research before planning your master plan of your success.
Only one caveat that we like to put here. That see, luxury is a very very easily used and not understood. When you talk of LV, okay, it might be luxury for Mumbai, but let's say a shopper's stop is luxury for Bhubaneswar, or a lifestyle is luxury for Bhubaneswar. So it is a relative term. Now, everybody going to LV or everybody going to, let's say, any other big brand that you talk about, that's where the people make the mistake. What we are saying is that you understand the aspirations of the people, understand what they are buying, and a lot of it will be surprised. For example, we came to know that the highest order of diesel online came from cities like Petlad or Anand Nadiyad, which were circling Ahmedabad. Surprise. But that's the kind of data that you need to understand and then build or then curate malls. That's what I think our leasing team does a very good job of that.
Right. I think, Bimal, what you're asking is it's very relevant. See, to understand consumer data is a paramount importance to deciding or developing a new asset, right? We dwell a lot of into it, right? Whether, which is the credit card consumption data, the mortgage data in that city, the number of cars, the type of cars, how the city's real estate is growing, how the city's infrastructure is growing. And then to top it up with a lot of online e-commerce data on terms of shopping, fashion, how is the penetration of each brand in that city. and then accordingly venture into city. Because our job starts much before evaluating a city within the country. Because especially after COVID, we've seen tier 2, tier 3 cities have got crazy amount of consumption happening from those towns. And that's where the markets are absolutely virgin, right? They don't have any A-grade shopping malls. So we play a lot of, we spend a lot of time in dwelling onto consumer data insights and then accordingly plan it. And that what my colleagues just mentioned on, then follows the size, the planning, the asset mix, the positioning, and so on and so forth. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Bimal. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll take a step back. So historically, most malls are built, and then it has to, the audience has to, or the catchment has to adjust to what has been built. And typically, that's the reason why most of the malls have, failed or not seen success. But how it should be done is exactly how Rohit has also mentioned, that a lot of deep diving has to be done. Most malls, historically also, if you remember, there has been, a catchment analysis, there is a gap analysis, there is a competition analysis. But these analysis, typically done by most of the IPCs, will give you historic data in terms of how things have been and what's the trend. But it is essentially a pool of what has already happened, rather than looking at how the shopping trends are growing, how the spending patterns are changing, what are the consumption change and what are the consumption pattern change in the catchment. Now, one thing we have to remember is one of the basic principles that a mall and the primary catchment, which is approximately say a 15 to a 20-minute drive time, drives 60% of your, typically a 60% of your business is driven by your immediate catchment, and understanding your immediate primary catchment is the mantra to success. Now there are multiple agencies, and we also engage them whenever we are looking at a new project, be it a neighborhood plaza, be it a city analysis that we're doing, or we're looking at a new 1 million square foot project, even mixed use development. We deep dive into the the trend, the shopping, where are the people going at the moment? What are they spending? What are their wallet size? What kind of typical spend bifurcation in terms of grocery, in terms of fashion, in terms of household needs? What is the disposable income? Not just the demography details, but also in terms of spending pattern details. And now it is available, as Rohit also mentioned, that there is data dump available, and there are agencies who can crunch these data for you, which your mobile is leaving a trail. Your your online transactions are leaving a trail. Your online shopping is leaving a trail. Heat map of the entire city is leaving a trail in terms of where you're coming from, where you're not coming from. So, and these are scary data as well. When you look at it, the amount of data that they have, what for each person, what they're doing, how much time they're spending, including whitelisting. For example, if there is a significant time that you're spending in your office, and it's a pattern for the month, then it's whitelisted that you're at work. So the algorithms are now designed to figure out that you're at work. So that's not the place where you're going for partying or you're going for spending. While post office, if there is certain clusters which have the the heat map, then it'll tell you that okay, the 60% of the audience is going here and spending this much time. So, and just a quick 1 minute on we did this data for Galleria because we were building a neighborhood market at Gurgaon. It's called the Summit Plaza, which is going to be the neighborhood plaza that we're working on. And this data is very fresh in my head. And we wanted to actually, for the longest time, we were wondering what should be the positioning of this project, because the catchment is absolutely thick. People don't have any, other options to spend on. There is no organized retail in the neighborhood. The only organized or so-called the most popular, most successful, and Galleria is no joke because Galleria features in the top 1, 2, 3 in Asia. We had data to tell us how many cars coming, what is the bifurcation of age group of the audience coming, what is their spend, and which category they are spending on. And that when you look at that data is unreal, the amount of real information you have to take a call. And this information is, I think, the mantra for whenever you have to build a mall, to understand what is the gap and what you have to build.
The data available today is excellent and unnerving at some level. And the good part is, I think, all of you have spoken the right things, at least on the panel, and some truth that, yes, we used to use this data or some form of data earlier, but didn't live on it. Let's put it that way.
Bimal, ek cheez iske
No
andar main
offense to
aur-
the IPC reports. I
Of course,
mean,
I'm agreeing.
due respect, Bimal.
I'm from that. I'm from that life.
एक चीज मैं definitely add करना चाहूँगा. Yes,
Please,
data
absolutely.
obviously you look at a lot of data and then you decide, but somewhere down the line now that gut feeling that comes from you, from within also tells you that should you or should you not.
I think that's a age mantra. We still go by the gut, but the new age guys go by data
Gen Zs
alone.
are not following.
But I was just thinking, with everybody speaking here, when you have a good, diverse panel, the moderator doesn't have much to do. You're already taking all the points one after the other in the right zone. But let me take this on one step forward. When you're doing this and you've got the data, you've come to a stage where you know who you're addressing and what you're addressing. How do you go about planning the mix? It's a very simple question, but I want to ask you, आपने overall mix decide कर लिया. I have a second question layer to that question, which is how do you decide which retailers to go within that category? Let's say you decided your category mix. Now, how are you deciding on the mix in terms of the retailers?
So, once you've decided the kind of positioning of the center, the catchment data we have, the spending power, then really to understand, okay, what are the kind of anchors, because the catchment definitely defines. So, for example, if a catchment has more young families, smaller children, right? When it comes to fashion anchors also, we may look at more teenage-oriented, the new age fashion anchors with the right size, right? Secondly, in terms of entertainment, right? Those are big anchors today. So in terms of, placement of IFEC zones, food areas, so a lot has to do with the kind of, the spending and the catchment that is coming to the center. So while analyzing such data, you got to carefully choose, okay, which are the various tenants in a given category. And then to, of course, our next step, let's understand what kind of TDs are they doing, how are they performing in that geography. Because some anchors may do well in north, but not so much in south, or vice versa. So we have to really understand how they're performing also. I think another thing is that today a lot of new categories are open to coming into malls, like jewelry, for that matter, right? Traditionally, conventionally, we didn't see, getting jewelers in the center. And they clearly add a lot to our top line numbers, right? so I think those are some of the new things that we're all trying to do.
Thanks. Anybody else wants to
Yeah,
add on?
basic.
Please.
Category wise, I think it's very basic, and everyone knows that in any catchment or in any center, how you want to do. Post that, what we really look in each category, who are the top 2 performers or trending guys who are doing really great value addition to the community and the city. Amongst that also, we see who is digitally very strong. Because this is the new trend what we are seeing, that the age-old retailers might not continue their success if they are not digitally strong. Because right now the shopping behavior is that people are doing digitally, they are doing the research digitally, online, and then they are coming to the malls to shop. So we are having a very sharp focus on which are the brands who are very digitally strong. That also helps us understand whether they will add the desired value to that center.
So you're saying top 1 or 2 TD guys, and then maybe also digitally strong. Very demanding.
But for us, we are very lucky because we got malls across the country. And we got data which is in large numbers. And we built on the data. So our decision is primarily based on 3 things. Number 1, how the brand is performing across the country. There might be some brand that is strong in some region, may not be so strong in some other region. We also found that brands that have got the capacity and the ambition to go forward, and they are very good regional brands. Once they are taken to another mall or let's say other region, they perform even better than what the other brands are. So we have had a lot of examples of brands that we have taken from, let's say, south to the north or north to the south, and they have performed exceedingly well. The third is obviously what we always believe in, and he talked about digital, which is again a very important feature, but more so about how the customer feels is the brand on an upswing. The whole idea is to bring a brand which is on an upswing. So like, for example, let's say a D2C brand that we were just discussing, a new me, is a brand on the upswing. Now, if you are able to bring it at the right time, at the right location, then I think that we do well. So that's, I think, the key on how we do about it.
I would like
Bimal,
to add
I'll give
one
you
point.
the devil's perspective, okay? Although I agree with all my colleagues here, and they essentially, become a hygiene issue in terms of what you're bringing, what you're not bringing, where they are performing, what they're not performing, what trading densities they're doing. So these are essentially now for all the top malls, all developers, they're doing a hygiene check, and this is a siphoning system, which I think everyone is following in their own in terms of data is also readily available everywhere. But I'll take a step back in terms of, the pressure of net operating income is immense. Okay. So when you're looking at the categories, when you're looking at reassessing your mall, you're understanding what categories contributions are, and so the basic and the very important factor is what is your category contribution and what is the critical mass for each category. Okay. So for example, if you want to create a holistic shopping environment and a complete ecosystem, you will be looking at about 32 to 42 about categories which complete your ecosystem. It again depends on whether you're a destination mall, you're a neighborhood mall, or you're a town mall or a town hall or a community center. So between say 25 to 37, that's the amount of categories that you will have to look at. Now each category has a contribution to make in your P&L. Now each of these categories have a threshold in terms of trading density, a threshold in terms of what's the occupancy percentage that they can look at. So what is for example, the threshold for an electronics brand maybe 3-4%. For a jewelry brand maybe even lesser, maybe 2%, 1%. For a footwear, it may go up to 16-18%. Fashion, it ranges between 8%, goes up to 15-20%. So each of these categories has to be now brought down to a critical mass. So for example, a category may have only 3 people to attain critical mass. One category may require about 8 in terms of critical mass. And then you have to overall see what is the category contribution and then how you're affecting your entire net operating income. Going forward, and I can say that with a lot of conviction, that all organized developers, whether they have a private equity sitting on the back or not, they will have immense pressure in terms of choosing which category, what is the critical mass for each category, and then of course you're looking at the top trading densities and pushing the trading densities year on year.
So this is creating a problem for yourself because we are, and I've had this conversation with some of you in the recent past, that we are bringing in categories which are very, very dense on TD. And going forward, some of these are commodity cycles. When they're on the downward cycle, it will negatively affect your entire portfolio and every center. And then to replace them will become very difficult because there aren't any. There aren't many options that you have available to replace these categories. So let me come back. Sorry, Rohit, you want to bring in? I'm cognizant that we are going to be cutting short a few of the points that we wanted to cover today, but let me just come to, and we'll try and keep it quick. Experiences, because we're saying how do we differentiate and how do we create a niche for ourselves? How important are experiences? And I'm saying purely, I'm not getting into the experience from an entertainment standpoint or something like that, but what are you guys doing and what do you think is important from an experience creation perspective to differentiate yourself and to keep bringing people, and I'm clubbing 2 points here, and to keep bringing people back on a regular basis. So experiences and loyalty. I'm trying to club both of these into one.
So experiences is absolute important. So now when we're building Vizag, case in point is the asset the way we've designed is the land had trees which were about 120, 150 year old on the land. What we have done is we've created atriums around those trees and creating indigenous cafes around it. So that's one key part. It's a 16-acre land parcel. We've created a jogging track across the mall so that it appeals to people and the community and the neighborhood even when the mall is not operational, right? So the idea of experience is no longer that the people come in for shopping. We're trying to say creating aspirational experiential centers where shopping happened incidentally, right? So every nook and corner of the asset is planned and designed in such a way that it really, really appeals to the neighborhood, to the community around, and then how do we really sustain it over a long period of time, right? So there are multiple, we're doing a lot of landscaping, we're doing rooftop areas with a lot of restaurants around it. So there are a lot of stuff, and not only on the mall or in the periphery. What we have designed is the mall is slated to open by end of this year. A year back, the entire road leading to the mall and the arterial road, we already planted trees which are going to have blossoming effect during the springtime. So we've gone ahead and done a lot of different stuff which will really appeal to the consumer, to the brand, and to the city in overall. Right?
So I will just give an example of Select City Walk. Everybody knows Select City Walk is one of the best centers in the country, performs exceedingly well. But in order to increase the efficiency or efficacy of that particular mall, we did 3 things just very recently. First, we actually repurposed the entire plaza area. And the plaza area is now clean, ready, can host events which can house almost 2,000 people. And this I'm sitting in. So not there before. So we invested money. Just the fact that we built this, and there's been a lot of excitement around that. So there are now events that even the government held. And Arunachal Pradesh Mela was held there, which actually pulled people from across Delhi. So it was a new experience for them. Obviously, you can still shop for the Massimo Duttis and the Zaras inside the mall. This gave them a new insight. Second, we introduced something from an ESG perspective called terrace farming. The whole helped both bring down temperature also, and the farming that we did there, we actually selling the products in our carts there. So this is something that the customers are actually finding extremely unique and exciting. Third, if you've seen the dome was a difficult structure to do. We actually converted, and there was no way in which you could put solar panels on that. We innovated and put solar strips on that. So today the dome is covered with solar strips, creates energy, helps the environment, and is helping bring down our temperature also. So I think those are the kind of things, people love it when
Absolutely.
they see them. So those are the kind of things that we are doing at all our centers in order to bring what you just pointed out, because now experience is going to be the critical aspect going forward.
Please, Nandini.
Bimal,
Sorry.
Now, as we know that, pickleball has become the most trendiest sport in the country. So when we realized that pickleball is the most trendiest sport, what we can do as a mall. So as a mall, we built 3 courts. Now we have added 2 more courts. So I think we are the only mall, or one of the malls in India, who have 5 pickleball courts. So that attracted a very sporty kind of a customer profile to a mall. So after playing pickleball, they come to the mall to hang around in the cafe or do some shopping or anything else. So that is one very strong contribution or addition which we did. Second was building a lot of Instagrammable places. Whether our restaurants are Instagrammable or not, because that's what people are going for. Should I go to this restaurant? Is it Instagrammable? Then only I should go. So how many Instagrammable restaurants we have, or outlets we have, or pop-ups we have? That is second. And the third is, what are the D2C brands which are catering to the Gen Z, and how can we get those Gen Z in our mall? So these are the 3 areas where we really worked consciously to ensure that the customers keep coming back to the mall. Because this is what the driving force currently is.
Thank you. Sorry, Nandini.
I would like to add upon a few developments which we have done in our portfolio of Aarize Buildtech. Initially, there were a couple of things which was not doing well. So, going back into the summary of all the points which my colleagues fraternity have said, we have tried to make these existing centers revived into a more engagement centers by creating some concert halls, some kind of, event places wherein, we organize events every week and try to bring more of these neighborhood people in terms of various, festive concepts. Plus, we are trying to come up with many other things in the vicinity which should be, in terms of the aesthetics of the malls. Only getting a high-end, interiors or high-end exteriors doesn't work out. But what is important is, you should be having sufficient space to engage your customers. So we have created more of entertainment, yoga centers, some meditation centers are there. So this is how we feel that, you know, people would be more engaged to give their time, even if they are not intending to come there for shopping.
Great. Thanks. Nandini, quick one.
So quickly, I mean, just to add to this, of course, I think for malls, it's very essential to increase our weekday footfalls. So such initiatives like, you know, you mentioned pickleball, we've also added that in one of our centers. Community clubs like Mom and Kids, summer camps. These are some initiatives that we have to take, and the community looks for us to celebrate such events. So it could be even Karwa Chauth for that matter, smaller events also. But they look forward for malls to, you know, plan such events where they can come and celebrate with their family. So yeah, experiences, not just the center experience, but our engagement experiences definitely are important in today's and now.
Excellent. Sorry, we are running out of time, but Rehan, you were talking about Instagrammable experiences that you curate and keep evolving and churning on a regular basis. How important is that, and how effective is that?
Yeah, extremely effective. I think I'll like to bucket it into three. So the entire experience can be bucketed into prima facie three. One is the mall has to stay relevant, in which your brands and, you know, the collaboration with the brands and how your visual merchandising also getting refreshed, what kind of curation you're able to achieve, and how agile you are in terms of getting in freshness with new brands. That's one part of the experience. The other is the hygiene part, in terms of your arrival experience, your, you know, how you're moving around, your air conditioning, like all these come into the hygiene factor, and that's one bucket which has to be, of course, taken care of, including housekeeping, your washrooms. All these form a very important part of the experience. The third is, of course, the touch points, in which it starts actually way beyond, before you actually, when you start thinking about going to a mall, your journey actually starts from there. So, as Rohit also mentioned, in terms of your approach, in terms of Instagram, in terms of whether you're able to book a parking, book a table, concierge, plus, of course, the Instagram and digital is very, very important. Most of the brands are spending up to 70% of their marketing budgets into digital and social. There are many agencies that we also engage who refresh the activations within the mall in terms of installations, because, you know, everything runs out of juice after a while, you know.
So people keep coming back for that.
Yeah,
You're
so
saying
yes,
that is
and
one
it
way
does.
to get people back. But good. So because we are out of time, I wanted to actually talk about two other things that we discussed, but I don't think we have enough time to do that. One was to bring in flexibility so that you keep evolving and churning your brands. That was one. And the second one, which I think is a very important topic in creating value for yourself, is how long and how true can you be to the niche that you create. And I think Rehan brought that point up, and in some way Jen also spoke about it, is when you have to give a return to the shareholders and report it on a regular basis. How true can you be when you have to keep bringing up your TD and keep growing? Can you stay true to your niche? So
Flexibility, again, you just picked up the point of flexibility. I think it's extremely critical to be able to be flexible as far as your centers are concerned.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things today that we all know about is multiplexes. I mean, you know, everybody's having that challenge right now with their business. Of course, I mean, it's content driven. If good content is not there, one really can't have that kind of level of occupancy required for them to be able to sustain. And people have built large superplexes in centers. Now, do we really need them? But if they're already
built... It's a very
built,
long discussion, Atul. We should start.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is that flexibility. How do you make use of that area for an alternative? Really, I mean, that's the difficult part.
Thank you.
I can only say that the board is happy till date. Aage ka will see, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.